So we are back for another recap of the biggest Duel Commander tournament or tournament overall both of us ever attended.
And I think ever, right? We
Ever,
broke the
yes.
record.
Yes. I think the very first time we went to like a very big one was the Zap Masters back then, where you even ended up in the finals against Moondust on Ursa.
Yeah,
And
that
that
was
was a
was
crazy
that?
event, right? I mean, 240-ish players or something like this. I don't quite remember the number anymore, but there was a day two for sure,
Yeah,
and it was a crazy experience already.
yeah, and that was at the very beginning of our YouTube channel. So this sort of podcast format about the tournament that we've done once before um, wasn't even in our minds back then
No, not at all.
to kind of record the event in the way we're doing now.
Yeah. I mean, some of our viewers asked us, "You still here?" Some of our members might have heard that on the latest member video that I'm still sick. That's my takeaway from the long weekend with almost no sleep and sitting in the casting booth for 3 days. No, 2 days actually. But here we are. We survived. I think it was an incredible event with up to 2,000 players for all formats, I think. So the main event had around 960 players, I guess. And then there was Modern going on, Legacy, and all kinds of other formats, Pauper and whatsoever. I think there were like 1,000 tables in total, or am I wrong?
I think that sounds about right if you include the commander area.
Yeah, right.
And like the event was at a crazy scale for us. Like I think we both missed this kind of golden era of GPs where um
Right,
like
yeah.
before COVID there was a bunch of like not dual commander but other tournaments where you had these huge um Grand Prix that you could take part in like Amsterdam or Brussels or Antwerp and these sorts of in huge locations with giant vendors and 2,000 people main events and a bunch of side events.
Mm.
And yeah, that was the first event that I've been at where you'd have things like you have a, a weekend of activities and there'd be like side event drafts going on and these sorts of things.
And artists,
Um,
like several
yeah,
famous artists coming around, and you can have your cards signed, playmat signed, chat with them about XYZ. It's absolutely crazy. And I mean, organizing an event of that size is definitely very complicated, I can imagine. Lots of things to structure and plan ahead of that. But yeah, so we actually went there on Thursday.
yeah, we
Um,
flew over on Thursday from Frankfurt,
yeah.
as the French airports describe
Right.
our city, Frankfurt.
Bring forward.
Um, Pleasant flight. We all worked on the day, right?
Yeah.
So it was pretty casual. After work, we take a plane over. Had some nice food in the city,
Yes.
some traditional French food,
So
and then
Samuel's actually our how would you translate that? Our gastro chief. You're so Will.
yeah, the gastro is a little bit the term is a little bit different in German than it is in English.
Yeah. Okay.
But I I look for the restaurants
Right.
because yeah, I have a bit of an eye for it of like looking at the Google reviews and the pictures and kind of filtering out the stuff that's not great. I mean, our food was it was good. I don't think we had any like, oh my god, this is crazy dinners,
No,
but
but I think
um,
that's also not the point. We just wanted
exactly.
to have something to eat, and it was more or less the only time that we were in the city center of Toulouse.
Yeah,
It was raining like crazy, I think ma the main reason we started on Thursday already, because I think many players actually arrived on Friday, was because I wanted to play the warm up on Friday to at least play some Magic and not only cast.
Yeah.
This does sound as if I would have not enjoyed it, which is not true. But you know, I also wanted to play some Magic after all. But yeah, was a cool arrival, I would say. The hotel was pretty okay, I would say, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I'd say
very
adequate.
yeah, it's close to the venue, which is very nice. So you have like 2 minutes walking way towards the venue, so you can wake up at 7:30 or something, or 8:30. No, 8:30 would be too late, but have like a relaxed breakfast, and then you can already start playing from the hotel room.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to be for the venue to be that close. We had a bunch of situations where, you know, it got warmer during the day, so we said, "Oh, we'll take our jackets back to the hotel
Yeah,
instead of having to carry them around the whole time." We went shopping on one evening to have some food to snack during the day, and we could leave that in the hotel room and go and get it if our rounds finished early, and um, that made the whole organizing of the event much easier. If you're there without a car, if you're there with a car, you know, it's that also works pretty well. But in our case, we're usually without a car when we're going to the venue from the hotel.
yeah. As
So
long as we take
yeah,
the plane, then we obviously don't have a car
yeah,
on site, but usually that's not the case. I mean, the only thing that you know, we arrived Thursday evening. Of course, we wanted to play some games, and then we figured there were some Italian guys from the Italian community in the lobby already, and there was like one table with 6 seats, and they were playing there. And then I asked the guy from the hotel lobby whether or not they could open the breakfast area to play, and he actually told us yes, they did that last year. But apparently, some people stole breakfast from the breakfast buffet, and so they will not open it this year. And this resulted in less people being able to play Magic in the hotel lobby, because at the rooms there was actually no table to play Magic, and that was a bit frustrating. But yeah, it
yeah. It
is
was a
what it
bit
is.
sad.
Yeah,
You would hope for better conduct from the community, but
right,
you
right.
know, there's always some bad apples.
Crazy that something like this. But okay. And yeah, I think we already met a couple of people from Strasbourg, especially on Thursday evening. And then Friday started, and we were all hyped to play some games of Magic, obviously. So just to talk about that shortly, you played Terra the entire event.
Yes, yes, I was
Marcus,
pretty convinced of my list. We had a moment where s- there were in bits of information coming from different places, and we thought we had to submit our deck list for the main event on like basically at the beginning of the week or something. There was
true,
no
true.
like Wednesday night. I think we had someone be like our like the main event deck list should already be submitted, and that was a bit confusing to us. So I just submitted my list. I think there was a couple of changes that I would like to have been able to make um, between day one, between the warm up and the day two event, that I would have made if I had known that we could have submitted our deck list right up to the start of the event. But yeah, that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah. So you played Terra, Marcus played Terra, and Mark actually played Yoshi Chrome, which is basically Yoshi Boros, but you feature Chrome due to the new Spider Woman, I think is called, right? The
Yeah, the new
one
Spider
with the
Woman,
splash
and
and Mental Misstep and Detection Probe and things like this, of course.
yeah, those are just some free additions that you can make. You don't have to
Exactly.
change the mana base at all,
Yeah.
but you get access to some, like the new Spider Woman is great.
Yeah, I think
It
so too.
it comes at a much better place in the curve as opposed to like a Thalia Heretic Cathar, and has flying. It's a legendary creature. You know, there's a bunch of upsides to it.
Hmm. Definitely. And I like the fact I think I said that a couple of times. I really like the fact that you finally have a blue splash in the command zone for like a real splash in the 99. This is how a splash from Highlander times is supposed to be, like playing
Yeah.
2 or 3 cards. And here you don't have to change your mana base in a way to cast those spells. They are free or either can be cast off of hybrid mana, so that's pretty cool, I think. And
Yeah, there's a couple of concessions that you make in Duel Commander where if you were playing Highlander or any other format, like you could play Ignoble Hierarch in a deck that doesn't feature any black or red or like a Deathrite Shaman, and just not be able to use that mana or activate its abilities, but still, like in the case of an Ignoble Hierarch in a black and green deck, that's still the best mana dork that you could hope for,
yeah, true.
other than like Birds of Paradise. But you get to play an additional one just because that's how it works. So um, yeah, it's cool that you could do that with the Spider Woman and get around the hybrid restriction.
Yeah, I agree. What did I play? I played Tifa again because I was not really into playing Magic that much within the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I just wanted to play some games at the warm up, and I picked up the deck because this was the one that I recently had the most experience with against the current meta game. So I thought that felt right. I was thinking about playing Peter Parker. We talked about that up front, and I actually ordered Peter for it, but then I thought, well, I don't have much play practice against the current decks, and I will just go with Tifa. The rounds are not taking too long if you play mono green, win on turn 2 or turn 3. So that seemed to be right to me. I finished.
Yeah, I think it's good
Yeah.
to go to a tournament like this with a deck that you have practiced,
Hmm.
that you know about the matchups and you know about kind of what you're facing. Like I think there's a real consideration about mental strain, and
Yes.
whenever you're playing a new deck, and especially a deck like a combo deck, you have to consider, okay, do I do I want to take a deck that gives me so many options where I don't know how they're all going to play out, and then kind of in the end, you start making some mistakes that you uh, could have not made if you had known the deck better.
Absolutely. And also you have to consider all these things around. Like we arrived on Thursday. Of course, you're planning to go to bed early, but that's most likely not the case. Um, Still had like 6 hours of sleep. Whether or not that's enough is up to you, but it's not necessarily enough for me. And then, the more draining the deck you play becomes, the harder it is to go through those matches. So, and I also, it was also for like a bit of networking and socializing because it was the first time we've met many players from the community. For example, the some of the people from the committee, Florian Trott and Leo, and then like other content creators, Kellic, for example, from Team Pedofas, at which Samuel also played on cam. And there was also Ryan from Dueling Grounds MTG, I think the channel is called. Yes, that's right. And like many of our members and whatsoever. And it was not only about playing, but also because I thought if I have more time in between, then I can walk around and talk to people and just, you know, get to know each other. And you also want to have a look at the cards that the vendor is offering. There was also a Mox Tombola ongoing, at which I think most players participated.
Yeah.
So you could buy a booster pack, right? 20 euros. And there was like there were some trash cards in it and like one treasure card. The treasure card could be a bit, how to say, like of greater value. Sometimes could be a really good card. You might have seen the short on Mark opening the Mana Confluence for $100, I think it was. You also had the Artist Proof booster, right?
Yes. So we all put a bit of money into the chance at a Mox. I ended up basically going even. I got the number 2, which didn't get pulled in the end, and I got a card worth 20 euros that for the 20 euro booster that was fine for me. Um,
Yeah,
and
the Tombola thing was crazy. We had,
yeah,
but I will get to that later.
okay, yeah, and during when we were opening those boosters, I Titus Lunter had with his, I think, girlfriend or wife.
I think they were married, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Susan,
They're both artists,
yeah.
and they did a very fun concept of they made booster packs with some of their artist proofs and put some put some good artist proofs in there and some sketches and some signed ones, and basically transparently put in the odds. You have a 1 in 60 chance of getting a foil Urza Saga and a 1 in 60 chance of getting a custom sketch on the back of one of your proofs, and these sorts of things. And they sold those boosters. I opened one of them, didn't get anything very good, but it's a fun experience to open a booster like that. And
Yeah, absolutely.
now I own some artist proofs, which I didn't before, and that's always also like an upside of artists coming to your event. They offer some of the most unique ability to pimp your cards
Mhm.
through signatures and through sketches and small alterations and artist proofs.
It would have been super cool if you would have drawn something that's more playable in Duel Commander, which was not the case, I think, from your booster, but still, you had like a cool old bordered foil, Arch of Araska, I think it was,
Yeah.
or
And
Araska,
Ranger
yeah.
class is a card that we've seen.
Yeah, I played it once or twice, I think, in a deck.
I think it was in Bristly Bill, right?
In Brisley
Oh,
and in Marov, actually.
yeah. So every now and then that card sees play, and it's
True.
not a bad card, and I didn't have it yet, so yeah, that's a cool card to have as a proof.
Yeah, that was fun.
And
How did
yeah,
the overall standing on? I think Marcus and me went 5-2, right?
yeah, I
And
went 4-2-1.
Mark also 4-1, I think.
Yeah,
So it was okay. I think with like 4 wins, you were even with the ticket price. 5 wins, you doubled it more or less, and then the higher you got, like I think the first place was able to win a Mox Pearl. I guess it was right.
yeah. So the
So
first place was because of the time constrictions and the way that it all kind of panned out. You, in the end, there was some obscure decisions about won who won the mocks.
right.
Um, so I think there was a couple of players that were 7-0 at
I
the end of
think
the
they
tournament.
intentionally split it. The top four
Ah,
intentionally
yeah,
split it, so they split the. But yeah, it was a bit more complicated. I'm missing the details. I've just heard something from players that
yeah.
there was no Mox given away actually,
Ah,
but
okay.
rather like the value, which is also
Yeah,
fine, you know.
it is.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Do you have any cool plays from the warm up?
I think the warm up went pretty all right for me. I was 4-0 at the very beginning, um, and then drew one game and lost the next two.
Hmm.
I usually I seem to start tournaments strong, and then towards the end, I sometimes just may either make some mistakes, or but I like there are some games where you just can't do anything. Like the only thing you could have done was mulligan a good hand, which in hindsight you look at a hand and you're like, okay, I keep this every time, and if you don't win the game, then you don't win the game, even if you made most of the decisions. If most of the decisions went well and you don't have any takeaways from the game, that's also okay sometimes. Like sometimes you do make mistakes, and there were a couple of situations where I lost a game to tapping mana wrong or something like that. Um, that has happened, and that did happen in the warm up, not in the main event. In the main event, I made
That's great. That's what a
one or
warm-up is for.
two mistakes, but yeah, I was pretty happy with my level of play. My last matchup of the day was against Leah,
Mhm.
which I hadn't played against in paper yet, and that went basically how you'd think it would go. Um,
Not in your favor.
Not in my favor at all.
No.
He played a clean 2-0 against me, and there wasn't really anything I could do.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
would imagine.
yeah, that's those kind of matchups exist as well, and you just have to hope you don't get them.
Yeah, interesting. I
Um,
also played against Lear, and I think it was another guy, a French guy with a smaller YouTube channel. He had like a GoPro camera to his chest, which I found really interesting experiment of recording games. He was a very friendly guy, and we had like a cool chat up front. And I haven't played Leah with Tifa myself, but he told me this would be a terrible matchup for him. So I thought, okay, thanks for
mhm.
this advice, because it really depends on if your opponent has the force spike or the spell snare or the wash away and things like that. It
Yeah,
really slows down everything. Then again, many people overestimate the amount of counter spells this deck is truly running, because there are all
yeah,
these different twiddles and the cipher spell and whatsoever in order to keep going with the combo, and all these cantrips and whatsoever. So the actual amount of counter spells is not too high. And yeah, if you haven't faced that deck, you might simply overestimate it. I think I had like one really crazy play where I played against Aragon, and I was on the play, and it was like a super ballsy keep. I think I had one fetch land, one forest, and an Elvish Spirit Guide, and Invigorate, Groundswell, all these +4/+4 pump spells. And I decided to keep that, and I went for the turn 1 Tifa. My opponent had a Surveillant because they were already down to 5. And then next turn, they had like a Mental Misstep for the Groundswell, but I had Invigorate, and eventually they were on 1 HP, and I had like 2 more protection spells or something like this. And the game was over in 3 minutes, I think. And I was pretty crazy because I thought a longer time about whether or not to keep that. And in the end, because it's like super high risk, if it doesn't work out because your opponent has the swords or lightning bolts on turn 1, you're pretty much fucked, because then Tifa costs 4, and I had no other threats in hand in order to close the game. And Aragon always wins on a long run, because
yeah,
as soon as they bring down the Monarch and their commander, they will gain back life, they gain more resources, blah blah blah. It's pretty much over for you. So you have to keep control of the game in the very early turns, or like keep pressuring as much as possible. That was interesting, but it was really cool, like meeting players overall on day one already. I think the overall uh, vibes were pretty cool. Like people were super friendly, and the entire atmosphere was designed in a way that you really wanted to play Magic there, because
absolutely.
both of us have played at tournaments where this was also not the case, where you felt like, "Hmm, I'd rather be somewhere else. Like, we enjoy playing Magic, but this could be better." Also, of course, it also depends on the people, but most of those guys playing on a very high level, but still like being friendly, being professional, no cocky bastards, which you sometimes meet in Magic. Um, Maybe not in Dual Commander, but in other formats, and that was pretty cool, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I like the tables were great, the chairs were great, which
Yeah.
is sometimes those are an issue. In this case, not at all. It all felt like this was not the first Relic Fest. This was a Relic Fest in a long series of Relic Fests where everything went pretty well.
Yes,
There were
absolutely.
some, as I'd say, miscommunications, which we'll get to talking about the next day.
Let's talk about the
But
next day.
yeah,
We had I mean the day was pretty much done, you know, like we had a cool dinner and chilling a bit with the boys again, talking about the as always, you know, you play the tournament. The cool thing I have to say about the warm up was it's not like because usually you go for a tournament, you play the tournament is over, and then you process what was going on during that day. But at the Relic Fest, you go there, you play the warm up, and that was just the warm up. This was already with 360 players, I guess, and you
yeah,
played 7 rounds. This would have been a normal tournament somewhere else. This was just a warm up. So you had 3 consecutive days coming of playing Magic all the time, and this is like fully going in. It's totally cool. So we talked
yeah,
about that obviously in the evening, but you were also excited about the upcoming main event. I was excited about having the cast because for me it was the first time to do this in front of a camera also. Actually, I did cast with Jean-Luc C once or twice in the past. I think there was some Strasbourg event going on where we cast the top 8 or something together. Not that much, but it was also more or less in the blinds, if you so will. Mm. But yeah, main event started. You guys sat on the tables, and I think
exactly.
for most of you it went quite well, or for all of you actually. They went overall quite well, right?
Yeah, day one went well. I was 3-0, then 3-1, then I won three. No, then I won two, then I lost one, and eventually I was 6-2. Made it into day two with 7-2, um, and then lost the 10th round, which a 10th round on a day is pretty crazy. We started at 8:30 in the morning, and the last round finished for all of us. Like we were ready to go at 9:30.
Yeah,
So 13 hours of being at the venue is a long time.
that's a
Was
very long time.
most of the day, and very exhausting,
Mhm.
but like a great day overall. Um, I was happy with my performance. I had a couple of, I'd say, standout situations for me. So anyone who's familiar with Terra, which is the deck that I was playing, basically the same list as what I was playing on Cam. So if you watched our last focus session, that deck, I am still very happy with it. Still love playing it.
I was just
And I
about to
had
ask what
the
was your motivation to bring it to the tournament, but you basically explained it. So
yeah I it does a lot of things that I really like about playing Duel Commander. It does some very powerful things. It uses the graveyard and kind of that mana advantage that you get from reanimating big stuff, abuses that very well, but it also can play outside of the graveyard and kind of play the mid range plan pretty well as well. And um,
and
it
if you
also
want to
gives a
see all
certain
that, you just have to watch the focus session because Samuel did some fancy things over there for sure. I
absolutely.
can totally
And
see why you're super excited about it. Marcus brought the same pile, so he played
yeah,
Samuel's deck, and they both share the love for reanimator strategies. And as you said, Terra is more than just a reanimator deck. Mm, actually,
I get to play the birthing pod lines and the
right.
neoforms and the flickering things.
I was just thinking about because I faced in a warm up, I also faced a Terra player from Strasbourg. He was a really cool guy. Shout outs to him. We also talked about watches afterwards, I remember. Mm, and I think Marcus also had like a mirror match, so the amount of terrors was actually quite high, as far as I remember. It's at least in a warm up. I'm not sure about the main event, but the warm up was. I've
Yeah, like
seen
the
a few
statistic
tables.
breakdown of the tournament, I thought it was surprisingly few terrors compared to what I had seen at tables and what I had seen in the warm up.
Hmm.
But I think there's a lot of players that played Terra in the warm up because they're still experimenting with the list because it's still pretty out in the open what you're actually like what the best Terra list is, and then maybe
True.
they go for something that's a bit more tried and proven
Hmm.
in the following.
Yeah, do you mean like that's what sometimes people do? True, like see it as a separate tournament, which it is, right? And then you can like play something else. You just wanted to play
Yeah,
that up front, and for the main event, you've practiced your Peter Parker for I don't know 20 leagues on MTGO and stuff like this. There were lots of Peter Parkers, lots of Spider Mans, 2099, and the usual
yeah,
suspects like Aragon, Felia, Cloud, things like this. I mean, you've all seen the top 64 that was published on MTG Top 8, I assume. So if you're interested in the breakdown, you can go over there and have a look.
yeah. Spider-Man 2099 was my most faced matchup. I played against four
I'm not surprised about
um,
that.
four of them,
Okay.
and against two Peter Parkers, two Slimefoots.
Oh,
Um,
actually, it was interesting that I was expecting more Slamfoots at the higher tables, which was actually not the case, right? I mean, not
yeah,
not not that the deck was like not successful, but it was not as represented as I would have imagined it compared to
yeah,
previous bigger events where the amount of Slamfoots was much bigger actually.
yeah. I had one standout line to me for the Terra deck, which I wanted to share. So anyone who's played Terra and who's played against Terra knows that it's very, very rarely, rarely happens that you flip Terra, which is 6 mana to turn her around, and then copy her. She becomes a Saga with the same ability 3 times, which is to copy target enchantment. I think Felix can pull it up. I don't know the
Yeah, yeah,
exact
sure.
wording of it,
Sure.
but it copies an enchantment. Um, if it's a Saga, you get to put counters on it. If not, it gains haste, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. And I use that in a situation where I was playing against a Slimefoot player who had a bunch of 1/1s on the board, and I had a Fury on the board which I'd already roasted some of his board with, to copy my own Leyline binding, to exile the Fury, and then return the Fury to play at the end of the turn, and roast the rest of his Slimefoot tokens um, with his Slimefoot in the graveyard already, because he put it in the graveyard thinking that he'd still have all his saprolings in play by the time he untapped. Um,
That's a crazy lineup, man.
and yeah, that
That's a
that
pretty
was like,
cool lineup.
okay,
Yeah.
well, and that was kind of a moment where I was like, okay, I'm proud of myself that I found that. That's something you always have to be aware of. Um, even if it doesn't happen much, you sometimes you have lines of text on your cards that do matter in very precise situations,
True.
where even if you don't use them most of the time, you should always be aware of what your cards do fully in order um, to not make mistakes or find
Or
lines that do
simply
end up winning you the game at some point.
exactly, yeah. Play to your outs, because sometimes you
Yeah,
have the mana open and nothing else to do to activate her. And if it's the right time and it does something, and it did something in that situation, pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. So
Apart from
my
that,
day one went 7-3, and I think you saw none of it on cam day one. I did play on the team was it no?
yeah, Team Pilufas, yeah.
Yeah, Team Pilufas. Um, recording setup for one round. And yeah, how did your day go?
My day was completely different. I was sitting in the streaming booth with Jean-Alexis and Bagoish, and yeah, we were casting live the main event live, as some of you might have watched. And I definitely read some names in the chat that I know from our casts too. So that was a really cool experience. I have to say, it was also, as the entire event, very well organized. You could tell those guys don't do it for the first time. Everything was set in place, and everyone had like a very dedicated role, what to do, what not to do. That was pretty cool. I have to say, it's quite exhausting to talk like an entire day on camera, despite having a couple of pauses in between. It was also very. It was super cool. Of course, Samuel and me, we did that from time to time for the big events, and we know our dynamics. The exciting part about
Yeah.
that was to see if you can also flow with other people, and like this creates like new dynamics on cam, also outside of cam, and that was pretty cool. I think we casted overall pretty nice matches. We had like a bit of everything, some meta decks, some off meta decks, fancy commander choices whatsoever, and yeah, newer commanders, older commanders whatsoever. So that was pretty cool. But I think at the end of day one, I was more or less pretty toasted already. I was super tired, and I said like, well, we just have to eat something. I was also very hungry. So were you? Marcus actually thought that he would not have the chance to go for day two anymore because um
Yeah,
everyone,
that was.
yeah, maybe you can. Everyone thought that there would
Yeah, I
be a
think that
cut
was what I
after game
mentioned.
9, right? Yeah,
Exactly. That's what I mentioned earlier. There was two announcements in English but mostly in French,
yeah.
saying that basically what they actually were saying was that you needed 21 points to make day
Day two.
day two,
Yeah,
so 7 wins, and if you didn't have a chance at 21 points by the time round 9 finished, that you shouldn't play round 10. But what it sounded like was that if you didn't have 21 points by the time you got to round 9, um,
you got to
that
round 10
you
actually.
that you weren't allowed to play round 10.
Yeah,
That's kind of what arrived for us. So Marcos had 3 losses, which meant that he um, could have only made it to 7 wins, um, but not in 9 rounds. If you have 3 losses, by the time you're at 9 rounds, you can only get 6 wins. So he thought that with 18 points, by the time he got to round 9, he wasn't going to be able to make day two. So, and that happened by the time he was I think round 6 was his third
yes.
loss,
I would like to see was
and he was like, okay, well now I'll just play for the fun of it,
yeah, exactly.
and played 3 more rounds, won 3 more rounds, and then they clarified, or actually we kind of asked some questions, and then eventually we figured out, oh, you have to have 21 points by the time day one ends. So the last round counts, and if you still have a shot at it, you could still play it. So he was 6-3, and then made it to 7-3 and qualified for day two after thinking for 3 hours that he wasn't going to make day two.
Yeah.
That was,
It was quite funny.
uh, yeah, a very welcome surprise at the end
Yeah,
there.
exactly. I think Mark finished the best. Didn't he finish like 8-2 by the end of day one, I think? Nonetheless, all of you
No,
made
he was. No, we
also
were all
7.
seven and
Okay,
three.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were all 7-3.
Yeah, nonetheless, either of you managed to make day 2. So we were quite happy at the end of the day. And then I think it was pretty late. I just wanted to say this Tombola thing, right? Because I think you were playing or you were somewhere,
Yeah,
and
I
Marcus
was
and
still
Mark,
playing.
I think you were playing, yeah. And then, we came to the vendor and they said, well, the number was cold, no one has it. So there might still be the booster inside. People, of course, went crazy. I was talking to the boys. Come on, guys, let's just throw in some money. Maybe we can get it. We will just split everything that we find in the boosters. Okay, we do that. Marcus is paying 5. Mark is paying 5. I'm paying my 5. I just enter the digits. It says payment approved. And right at about time, someone from the other guy's like, "Yes, I have it," and like screaming and blah. It was such an awkward moment. It
Yeah,
was. I mean, it's super fun uh to talk about it later on. Actually, the
to have a
boosters,
shot.
yeah,
And at the time, it's a great feeling. You're like, yeah, I'm buying boosters with a pretty high chance that I open a Mox,
yeah, but also yeah,
and
like the feeling that
if
you
you
got
don't even
fooled.
get to open them, yeah,
Exactly, exactly. I mean, the
if
boosters
you,
were not too bad. We actually went more or less even, I think, because we drew a couple of bigger cards like Shieldred and Mace of If and blah 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 and things like this. What wasn't too bad, but it was more about the timing was so bad actually. But that's how it is from time to time. And then we had like dinner in the evening with Jean Alexis and Bastien with Baguiche. They joined us after the stream, and yeah, was a nice closing. I think we went to a steakhouse. I think it was right. Yeah, something like this.
yeah, yeah, it was a nice closing. I mean, it was it w- the food took a while to get to us, and eventually, we realized, okay, well, it's like past 11,
Yeah.
um, because the tournament finished at 9:30, and then we took a little bit for the stream to end and for everyone to get ready, and then by the time we were at the restaurant and had ordered and stuff, like, and we're eating, it was past 11, and we were like, okay, well, the the tournament tomorrow starts at 8:30 again,
Yes,
and
exactly.
by the time we get back and get to bed and get to sleep, we aren't sleeping that much before we have to be playing again and on cam again and these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So that was a bit stressful at the end there, but I got a couple of hours of sleep, and
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
then we ended up.
from Saturday to Sunday I had like 4 or 5 hours maximum. I woke up early because there were some people outside doing things. I don't know. But yeah, that's that. And then Sunday began, and
Yeah, Sunday began
you guys
well
were
for
back to the
me.
table.
Wait, did it begin well for me? I will have a look. Um, I did take notes this time to kind of stay on top of what was actually happening and not forget. Um, oh,
What's
hmm,
up? Seems it did not start well.
yeah. So my first matchup was Thrasios Tumna,
I think
which
that went
is
well because you
which
won
is
your
one of the
first
more
one, right?
difficult matchups.
Yeah.
No, I didn't win my first one.
No? Okay. I thought you did.
Um, I won the first game. I got onto board really quickly with a Hogak, um, and then the game game two, my opponent assembled. I had a mulligan, and my opponent assembled um, Druid combo very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I had a grief to take one of the tutors, but he had another one, and basically, I think he goldfished me on turn three.
That's
Um,
faster.
and game three, I had another grief, and he had a hand with only lands and a devoted druid, but he managed to cast the devoted druid, which meant for me that basically, as soon as it's on the board, I don't have a way of exiling it anymore because he can just kill it in response, and then any tutor for a creature turns into the Hazel what's this, Hazel's Brewmaster,
As a Brewmaster, yeah.
and becomes infinite. So, and I have very little graveyard interaction, except if I animate the Devoted Druid myself, which I didn't have access to. So basically, I had to try and stall him, and he had some very good cards to stall the game, and I wasn't able to get onto the board quick enough. He drew a bunch of mana dorks, cast Thrasios a couple of times, had a Skull Clamp at some point, and just kind of drew a bunch of cards, and eventually found his tutor to play to get the Hazel's Brewmaster and win the game. So that was a kind of, maybe I had some lines in that matchup where I could have won game 3, but it was very difficult to interact with the deck at that point. For my deck, I don't play that much interaction, and once he gets to once the combo decks are like one combo piece away, I can't really stop them from drawing off the top of the deck. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
true. It's
that was kind of round 1 gone. The next round was a Spider-Man 2099 matchup that I won pretty easily. I played against 4 Spider-Man 2099s over the course of the tournament, 3 times the combo version and once against the tempo version. No,
combo
not the
version?
combo. Control, not
Control.
combo.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
A control version. And I found the control version to be significantly worse than the quicker version,
Hmm.
because
Against you
like
particularly.
against me particularly, but that was kind of my like I saw the deck in several matchups kind of walking around,
Yeah.
and I felt like as a control deck, the pile isn't really any better than any of the other Izzet commanders that we've seen so far. But as an aggressive deck, when you have a couple of basically 2-card combos with your commander, with cards like Reckless Charge and the Takia version of Reckless Charge.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know the name, but I know what you're talking about.
But if you're playing Shocks and some of the burn creatures and some of those like prowess mechanics, suddenly you have the ability to get your opponent low and then threaten an incredibly strong commander turn 4, where the opponent has to be very aware of, okay, well, if I don't have any interaction against your turn 4 thing, then I'm basically just going to lose because I'm already at 10, and if he manages to pump the commander somehow, then I'm dead. So
Yeah. You know, I can
so
I can actually get behind both variants because when we played the Spider-Man Showdown on cam, you know that I also brewed the more aggressive or like a very aggressive version. I think the tempo variants that are running around are featuring at least a bit more counterspells than I did. But the thing is, whenever you put this card in the command zone, you don't really know what to expect, and you like the advantage of choosing the control plan is that your opponent doesn't know about it in the first game. So they expect, or they would rather expect a tempo variant, and based on their experience against the tempo variant, they would hold like a specific hand, and all of a sudden they face the control variant, which was also present every now and then. At least you faced it once. So there can be a bit of an advantage to that, I think. Of course, like over the course of a tournament, people might talk about it. Like, okay, there's this one player, and if it's like a more or less a bigger name to the player, then they say like, okay, but he's running a control variant, or he's like playing those commanders, but like in a completely different fashion and stuff. So it's not that secret anymore. The higher you get, but still, I get the idea behind that.
yeah, I get it too. I just thought I thought the commander was very very strong, but I felt like the control version was a bit underpowered compared to the tempo version. But
Yeah,
that's
but I
just
think this is
my sort of experience.
this is I think this is also that this comes down to like um the limited ways of interacting with your particular game plan, because
Yeah, that's
these
true.
tempo shells by nature always have like a problem, or had always problems dealing with reanimator decks, because you have to deal with multiple things um, at the same time. You bring down small creatures, you have to roast the small creature, then you have your commander. That's also a threat if you don't handle it. Then there are things in the graveyard happening. You present reanimation spells that have to be handled. There's so many things happening in a short amount of time that, at least from my time playing Aragon, it felt overwhelming from time to time.
Mm, true. Yeah, and then round 12, day 2, I played on cam, mm,
Yes,
which was very cool. It was against Asmore,
yes.
and the Asmore matchup was
I thought it was in your favor. Maybe I will talk about that from
yeah,
through my
I felt
lens.
like I played against the same player in the warm up, and I won that game,
Hmm.
or that match. And now I played. I kept a risky hand game 1, and it didn't pan out, so I had to win the next 2. I won the next game pretty easily, and then the last game he was on the play, and it was pretty tight. Um, I had a pretty good setup that was a bit slow, and by the time I got on the board, or I had attempted to get on the board, he had a pretty strong board state to deal the remaining damage.
Yeah,
And I had a line that I thought about for quite a while that was good against a bunch of things that he could have done, and I decided to stick with that line. And he had basically the best sequence of cards he could have had, which he flipped the round before with an Anya's Ravager. So he had 3 blind cards, which I had no information on, and it was a land, a Skyfire Phoenix, and a Spark Spray, which dealt the exact damage to kill me that turn. Um, which I couldn't have predicted, and there was no real playing around it for on my side. I could have taken the line a little bit differently, which would have kept me open to um, quite a few other lines of interaction. Like I had an Emperor of Bones with a Deadpool exiled, and I could have attempted to put the Deadpool in at instant speed um, with the Emperor.
that line was actually
However,
pretty cool, and you did that.
however, well, no, no, but I couldn't have put it into play. Like after the game, I talked with the judge who was watching, because it was on cam, so there was a judge watching, and he said you could have put the Deadpool into play at instant speed. However, um, during his turn, he could have, like at the end of his turn, he could have discarded card food, and then during his turn, as soon as he discarded the next food, or the next card for food, I would have had to have used my Emperor then, and I would have missed out on 3 of the damage from Deadpool, from the Deadpool trigger, because it wouldn't have been upkeep. So like, a very tight situations that I could have played in a maybe a little different, but I don't think there was a way for me to win that, considering the cards he had in hand.
But if you think you find a better way for Samuel to win, you can watch the game. It will appear on Alexis and our channel in a while. I can't say exactly when, but won't it won't take too long. Will be within the next weeks for sure. Mm. It
And
was
it's
an
also
it was an
currently up
exciting
on
match.
the
I
mod.
I was actually rooting
Absolutely.
for Samuel to play on cam. That's why we had him in the second round of day 2. Was obviously I was cheering for you. I was a bit sad that you didn't make it, because I also expected you to win over Asmo, at least in 70% of the times. And in the beginning, I was questioning whether or not your opponent was playing Reanimator, but that was not the case.
Yeah.
Still was cool to see the matchup. You've seen it already on the channel in the focus session. I also played with Asmo against Samuel and had some incredible hands and some very lucky wins. And so it was the case with this matchup, I would say.
Yeah, and with that loss, I was out of top 8 contention.
Yeah.
Considering that I didn't win the last round um, of day 2, of day 1, uh, I had to win every game of day 2 to even be in top 8 contention, and with one loss, that was kind of out. So after that, I was only playing for standing, and I faced 2 more Peter Parkers, which was 1 draw and 1 loss. Very fast combo, and 1 cloud, which was a very tough game, which I lost game 1 to a very bad mistake on an incredibly complicated board state where I missed the ward on the
Sheltered by
boots, the
ghosts. Oh
lava
no, okay,
spore
lava spore boost. Yeah,
boots.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if I hadn't had missed that ward, I would have won that game, and that probably wouldn't have ended up as a draw. Well, no, it wouldn't have ended up as a draw because I won game 2.
Hmm.
And that was also, it was crazy. I was at 16, and there's an equipment that some cloud decks play, which gives the equipped creature +X according to the number of cards you have in hand.
Hand of Vecna, it's called.
And he drew, I think it was 16 cards with a Skull Clamp.
That's good.
In a turn with a Pure Steel Paladin in play, so it was very mana efficient, and then had a Mother of Runes to give a Sanctum. What's the guy that exiles black and red cards from graveyards?
Sanctifier on Vec.
A Sanctifier on Vec. So he had protection from the 3 different colors of creatures I had
That's
in
pretty
play,
good, yeah. That's pretty good.
and attacked me for 16 in 1 turn. So
That's crazy, yeah. But that's the reason I see that from time to time in the international Discord that people always advertise Hand of Vecna as good equipment to finish games quickly, and that seemed to be the case in your game.
yeah,
Cool card, definitely a
it
cool card.
definitely was, and that was a frustrating loss. But at that point, I was only playing for score anyway, and
Yeah, okay.
yeah, so
I think for the
I
other
was
guys, it also turned out okay-ish. I'm not entirely sure. I think it was like win loss, something like this. You all ended up something between place 70th and 90th in the end, I guess, right?
yeah.
So not too crazy, but still took away some things.
Took away a bit of cash, and you know it's great when you. To me, it was great to just get to day 2.
Absolutely,
Uh,
it's already a nice achievement. No doubts about that. I think everyone who manages to have 7 wins out of 10 is that's already a big success on a level like that, I would say. One thing that I want to mention is we actually had another German player who was from the guys from Hannover who was grinding the rebound with a Lumra, and he actually managed to take home the Mox Emerald. That was the prize for the first place there. And I think it's quite cool that a green deck took the green Mox.
true.
And yeah, all of a sudden people are very hyped to have a look at the bear. a deck that you have played on camera already some time ago. It was a member submission. Pretty cool deck. I think it got quite a few more upgrades since then. And
Yeah,
it,
I
yeah,
think it's a very cool deck. I was a bit sad about its performance on cam because it didn't get to combo off.
mm,
But it definitely has the potential to do that and has some upsides over Atsuza um, that are pretty hard to play against. Like when you're looking at a Lumra being cast, it's it's pretty scary. You mill like Atsuza can have these very fast starts at putting a bunch of lands into play, but Lumra, when you kind of curve out with it and then cast your Lumra, you suddenly have so many more lands in play than Atsuza can like actually hope to get to, where you just casually have a glacial chasm lying around, um, and it's not even a concern for the Lumbra deck anymore to like sack it every turn and always have it up. And like
true.
for Atsuza, sometimes there are these tight situations, but most of the time when a Lumbra resolves, you are doing very well.
Mm, true. I think the big upside he definitely had was that most people he faced, or most players, were not informed about the combo lines. Neither was I, to be fair. Um, he actually shared his list on the Discords, and he wrote a primer with all the combo lines there are. And it's quite complicated. I mean, not complicated, but you need sorry. Um, it's it's not like there's I think there's one main line with the mirror pool where you always copy Lumbra, and then you can net mana depending on what you flip. Um, and then there are a couple of side combos going on, and you know even the main line with the mirror pool is something that you probably have never seen on the table. So there might be situations where you, as the Lumra player, okay, if this comes through, I win the game. But your opponent is like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah, well, spell resolves or something like this. I have no response. And then
Yeah,
all of a sudden they go ham, and you're sitting there like, okay, I could not foresee that. And I think that's definitely a big advantage to those underground combo decks, if you so will. Mm. But also, he's an experienced Lance player. He played back, I think last year we played in Darmstadt, and he was enjoying Azusa very much. So he definitely knows what he's doing, and um, in addition to having the passion to bring the bear to France, this all led to a beautiful Mox. I think that's definitely a cool achievement there.
absolutely.
In the casting booth, there was not much else going on. We casted day two. I was pretty toasted, to be fair, because I didn't sleep well, as I said. Was hard to keep track of everything. And then after the top eight, we had like the interview of the finalist, which was like about 10 minutes, something like this, because the players are super exhausted. The streaming team is everyone is exhausted. You just want to finish the entire event, pack your stuff, go home. Actually, we were waiting to have our dinner at a running sushi the entire weekend, and then
Yeah,
we planned
and
to
then
do that.
suddenly
Yeah,
every restaurant in France is shut on a Sunday,
exactly.
so we had to go to an American diner.
Yeah, that was quite funny because it felt like the entire community of the Relic Fest was sitting inside this American diner because apparently it was the only restaurant that was opened on this evening. So yeah, um, to wrap it up, I think this was a extraordinary weekend. It was really really cool. I enjoyed it a lot from this different perspectives. I'm really really happy that we met so many members, players of the community, you know, like people that are constantly watching our videos and supporting us. That was really cool to see in person. Actually, we wanted like on Sunday evening, we wanted to have like a hangout with you, but mm, after the top tables finished, it was already 10 10 p.m. and they were about to close the venue and stuff like this. So next time
Yeah.
we will plan ahead of that and maybe have something like this on Friday when there's like more time and you know people are not that exhausted and you don't have to catch your flight back to home wherever you live. You know, have that a bit better structured, so to say. But yeah, I totally enjoyed it. It was definitely worth the trip, and I hope we will come back next year for more fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were also kind of expecting the top 8 to finish up faster than it did
Right.
because like we thought, okay, well, we play 6 rounds um of the main event, and then after that the top 8 will go pretty fast, but the 7 round rebound that started after round 2 of the top 8 of the next that
Of
started
day two.
after
Of day two.
round 2 of
Of
the
day two.
day 2 of the main event,
Yeah.
finished before the second round of the top 8.
Yeah.
They were done, and there were still people streaming the second round of the top 8. So that, you know, the top 8 sometimes they take a long time to finish, and you are playing with everything on the line. The winner of the tournament got a Black Lotus,
Exactly.
and they want to take their time and make sure they're not making any silly mistakes that would, you know, that's costing them thousands of euros.
Right. I
So
mean,
that's totally understandable that those take a while to play out. But we were thinking, okay, it's going to go a bit quicker, and then maybe we can still enjoy a bit of the tournament with some fans and some members and kind of put that together. But Felix was in the booth, and we were like, we're hungry, and Felix was like, well, the games are still going on, so there was nothing we could do there.
yeah, I mean, we were trying to convert our things at like you know like having still some tickets left and stuff to buy more cards, and we were trying to find some cool things to trade that in. Mm. But apart from that, we were, as I said, mostly waiting for the event to finish because we were super tired. And yeah, but as I said, it was a great event. Mm, I would do it again, all over again.
Absolutely, me too. We will see how our schedule works out next year,
Yes, we have to check that.
but yeah, if it works out, then we are happy to join.
I'm back. Yeah, the Lotus was actually, by the way, was split in half. Our jokes aside, but the finalists decided to split the pool, which I thought it's understandable. It's the less risky decision because I think the second place got a full cycle of dual lands and the first place got the Lotus. But you know what I find a bit sad about that is it's this one chance to own your own Black Lotus once and even like win it in a tournament. It's a crazy amount of money, but also like the most iconic card in Magic. And to think about, well, in the end, you don't go home with a Lotus, but rather an amount of money is kind of sad, you know. But as I said, I understand the players that they took the decision to do that.
Yeah, I feel like when you're in front of this kind of a card, you also have to consider that it's like mulligans exist, and if you lose the game due to having to mulligan to 5, that's something that really hurts. When
Absolutely.
when you when
Yeah, yeah.
you like sure, you can put a lot on the line for a game of Magic and a game of Chance. But if you have the option to get something safely as opposed to lose out on a bunch of things simply because the opponent drew better than you did and there was nothing you could do, then yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, in the end, I think it was the Aragon player who offered the split, and I talked to him up front of the final match, and he said, I don't really want to play with that much money on the line. It's like we played the entire day. I'm super tired. I just want to eat. I just want to close the last round, play the game. Whoever wins, wins, but I don't want to be sitting there. Like, in the end, it was a very smart decision, I think. Um, yeah, as I said, I can understand that. We will see about next time. Maybe next year there will be a player who takes home the Lotus again. Let's see. But I would say we wrap it up. Are you still
Yeah.
with me? Yes, you are. Great.
Yes, I'm still here. I'm thinking about if I have any final thoughts. I really enjoyed my time,
Same.
and
Always a pleasure.
yeah, I think one thing that we didn't talk about too much, we got some awesome signatures.
Yes.
Sadly, we missed out on getting to get some signatures from Rebecca Gay, but the other artists did a great job as well, and I'm really happy with the pimp that I got to add to my collections, which you will likely be seeing in upcoming videos.
True. Oh, that a good point. Actually, I bought my first miscut because I was
True.
recently introduced into the topic of miscuts and misprints and test prints and whatsoever. And I was actually seeking for any card that I could play in a regular dual commander deck. And the vendor or the organizer of this event actually brought like a special box with misprints and stuff. And here we go. Of course, I found a Japanese old bordered foil forest that I directly took home, and I'm very proud to have that card in my collection now.
Yeah. Yeah, I managed to add some cool cards to my collection as well. For the attentive watchers that have been watching for a long time, I have a miscut revised counterspell, which I sometimes like to play,
Yeah.
and
True.
yeah, now I have a couple more things in my misprint collection, um, including a Teferi's Time Twist, which I got basically for free, which is a pretty conspicuous card, but when you know what to use it for, it's pretty strong. And it's a card that I'm actually now, after the tournament, playing in my Terra deck. It's replaced Flicker as a card because while deck building, I actually basically forgot about the card Teferi's Time Twist, which is better on every level, or basically every level,
Yeah.
um, than Flicker because it allows me to scam elementals into play. So I can scam a Grief or a Fury or a Solitude with it, which is pretty strong. So yeah, I'm very happy that I managed to pimp that card one more level.
Mhm. It's a very
Yeah,
minor misprint, to be fair. You wouldn't notice it on camera. You have to see the card like in hand. But yeah, maybe you will play it every now and then.
yeah,
Okay, with that, I would say thanks a lot if you made it to the end of this podcast update, recap whatsoever. Yeah, from time to time we will do this again whenever we participate in a bigger tournament. And actually, it was requested a couple of times from our viewers that we do a recap on the Relic Fest, which makes sense because it's the biggest event, and both of us experienced it from a completely different angle. So it's pretty cool to talk about that. And I think we will do this for the next event too.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.
Yeah. And we will see each other in the next focus session, which is already planned, and it will be a spicy one, as always. So see you over there, guys, and have a good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to us. Bye bye.
Bye bye.